Okay, everything says we are live right now, so I just thought I would do a more than appropriate stream. And today's stream is going to be focusing on necessity of what you would need should you ever decide to be a hobby painter. Now, there's other videos out there on hobby painting, and those people are more than likely going to have a little more experience than me doing this. But I'm going to say that for hobby painters, aside from projects and such, miniatures are plenty. You're going to need brushes, okay? I'm going to throw some brushes out here. I'm going to take this one back. The reason why I'm going to discuss this is because I'm going to show off these brushes here, which are very affordable, and they won't cost you an arm and a leg. You can go to a hobby store, spend less than $10 and come out with 10 good brushes of varying sizes, of varying qualities. Now, granted, after a while, your brushes are going to need some repair work. Hey, Cash It Queen, how you doing, honey? How's you and Ords doing today? What you do is whenever you have your brushes start to go cattywampus on you, they start to not look so pretty. And that happens, okay? If you exert any pressure on these, the horsehair is going to go off to the side. Okay, you use a little brush shaper, which this is about $5. Yeah, I'm doing really well. After I do the stream, I'm going to shower up and head over to the doctor's office, let them examine me for my medical card. I've got to do that for my CDL. But you just do a little bit of that. Then you go and set them aside, let it dry. And like I said, these brushes, oops, not this one. These brushes roughly cost you about $2 or $3. Okay? And you can get some other brushes that are out there. I'll show you some name brand ones that you're going to spend probably $6 a piece or more for, which that's still not a bad price. Army Painter sells a good brush. This is their Insane Detail brush. Got about maybe 18 or 20 bristles in there. Maybe I'm overestimating that. But that's their Insane Detail. Actually, it's just a detail brush. They have an Insane Detail, which even smaller. This is another Army Painter brush. This is a dry brush, a small dry brush as they call it. Now, like I said, this brush shaper costs you not a whole lot of money. Hobby painting is an inexpensive hobby, and the miniatures are going to cost you probably more than the paint materials, okay? I like Bruce. Show us the paints. Okay. The way I started collecting the paints, there's a company out of Denton, Texas, which you don't have to go with this company. I recommend them. This is the Bones paint set number 4. And it retailed at $50 when I bought it in the fall of 2020. They have about 6 paint sets. With those paint sets, you get about 16 paints of various colors. The first 3 paint sets they offer are very important. You want to have, if not those 3 paint sets, you want to have something comparable to it. So basic paint set with the 1 ounce or 1.5 ounce droppers is going to cost you between $20 and $25. Reaper paints are more name brand, and they cost you about 40 to 50 for 16 paints. Now, you're going to need a palette. I use a Stay Wet palette. You get a bunch of papers like this. You get a trough and a sponge. Trough and sponge. Yeah, you can see I've used this for quite a while. And then you boil a sponge and a piece of paper. You boil it in a pan, and it helps the paper absorb and produce a better surface for you to put your paints on, so your paints don't dry out nearly as fast. I can use this paper for about a week and a half. It'll be all mucked up from dried paint, but the paint will take about 2 days to dry, and there won't be a whole lot left, actual substance of paint. Hello, brightest day. How you doing, sir? Now, there are Learn to Paint kits out there. These here I got with a kit that I painted a troll on, and that was from WizKids. WizKids also included a brush. I'm going to try to find it. Okay, well, they included a brush with this, and that brush is about dead. Now, for your paints, I recommend you keep, if you have paints like this, keep them covered. Don't expose them to air unless you're willing to paint with them. It's like anything else. Unless you need it, keep it covered. Keep it hidden. Here's another variety. Here's another manufacturer of paint. This is Citadel. They do a lot of work with Games Workshop. They've got an agreement. Have had one for years. People like these guys. They're not my favorite, but it's always good to have an auxiliary set of paints and washes and inks. And I've got to say, this is really good. In fact, you're going to see this in action here in just a second. So, after you get done painting your figures, this one here is not quite done yet. So we'll have to hold off on the ink. Actually, no, we can use the ink. We're going to go for this. Got a Hydra I've been mucking with for about maybe 2 months, off and on. And that Hydra is a Bones Fig. I believe it retailed for $8, $10, somewhere around there. And I always like giving a dirty, kind of a bruised look, or a lived-in look to things I paint up and such. And you can see that this Citadel paint is going in, and it's doing exactly what I need it to. This Hydra, typically the variety of Hydra you're seeing here in the games I play, they say by the lore, they always hang out in the deserts. They're also crossbreed with dragons, supposedly. So I'm thinking it had progeny with a blue dragon, or ancestry with a blue dragon. Blue dragons typically hang out in sandy areas. I just want to just dry brush this and not get too much. I think I've applied too much ink here so far, but you get this worked in and just let it hit the crevices, let it stain the way it should. Now, Citadel makes fine paints. A lot of times in the past, Citadel's paints, the pigment was too thick. You would start applying paint and you're like, oh my God, the detail's gone. And so you'd have to go over your figure again and reapply the brush without any paint on it, with this little bit of water, and you'd thin out the paint so you get your detail back. That was a problem. And that continues to be a problem whenever you pick up older Citadel paints. But the new stuff they've got, and I want to say probably since 2015, they've redone their paint line, because Reaper and Vallejo paints were just eating their lunch. They were going hard on them. And also, Privateer Press, makers of the game Hordes and War Machine, other games as well, Monster Apocalypse, I think. Anyway, Privateer Press, I'm not a big fan of their paints, but I love their miniatures metallics. The metallic paints they've got are by and far and above probably my favorite to use because they just apply so well. They're a little bit thin, so you got to do a couple paint coats on them. And yeah, I kind of sloppily painted this Hydra here, but I'll go over it again once this ink dries, probably tomorrow, because I really just been irritated with the fact that, like, I want to do this with it, and you look at your figures sometimes and you start like going, when am I going to get time for this? When am I going to get time for that? Well, you can see that I've got time for miniatures. I don't have time to finish them, and I'm working on that. So today's been a pretty good day. We're going to shoot for about a total of an hour of time in this stream. If I do less, I do less. If I do a little more, I do a little more. Main thing today is I got to go get my medical card taken care of, and I mean, there's always tomorrow, yes, but I'd rather not wait for a Thursday to go do that. It's a Wednesday. I know the traffic patterns of San Antonio. Okay. It's been really nice weather today. It's going to be in the 80s all week. We don't know what to do. I went outside earlier today in shorts and a tee, and my neighbor lady comes out. She's in long sleeves. And she says, "Are you cold?" I said, "No." Now, granted, it was kind of early. It was like 9 in the morning, 8 in the morning, and it was like 70, 75 degrees. And she's like, "I've lived here all my life. I can't stand cold weather like this." And I thought to myself, it's 70 plus degrees. Anything over 65 to me is shorts weather. I'm from Illinois. I'm not from the Windy City, but I'm from Illinois. And, if it's not freezing, I'm happy. I don't like cold weather. My idea of cold weather is freezing in the 30s, 20s, negatives, that sort of thing. I don't want to deal with that. And that's just not what I want to have to deal with. It's raining here in Connecticut, else I would be spending the time to finish painting my Cylon Raider. Dude, your Battlestar Galactica stuff is fantastic. I'm always impressed with the metal ink kits you've got. And if you guys get a chance, go subscribe to Brightest Day. He's on the up. He's growing big for a good reason. He's got a good channel. He spends time on his videos. He's a good man. For conventions, he gets to dress up and he does fun things. He dressed up like Green Lantern on one of the first days of the Las Vegas meetup. So if you guys go hunting for photos, you'll see that. He looked like a fucking Chad. He looked great. He looked great in that outfit. Then he had some uniforms. Looked like he was doing BSG. That's his favorite series. Hey, Brightest Day, aren't you involved with reading Battlestar Galactica novels as well? I know you're doing Space Crime Domino, which that's great, and Kai is a good author. But I was wondering if you were involved with reading Battlestar Galactica novels. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's his favorite series. For good reason. Glenn Larson created a wonderful world, a wonderful universe to make stories in. Back in the 80s, Glenn Larson was the man. Paulo Patriot says, I finally got my 970. YouTube's being very jacked up to the Greek god, but I'm grinding like hell. Brightest Day replies, I finished the first book while I was in Atlanta. The series is up on a playlist on my channel. Beautiful. I get my hands free. I'll link that in the chat because I want you up at 1,000. Good creator, good guy. Tuesday nights, Brightest Days on his channel, doing things like this, but with Gunpla or with Battlestar Galactica models. If you guys like that, that's going to be something you're going to find to be a treat. Okay, let's set this down. Dirty, dirty Hydra. Okay, my hands free. Brightest Day. Thank you for putting that in there. He has a playlist link already there for you. Paulo Patriot's so close to monetization, he can smell Athena's wet panties on it. Okay. For those of you that are enjoying the latest round of Call of Duty games, Apollo Patriot is another YouTube creator. He probably deserves a lot more subs than what I've got right now. He's almost at monetization. He is almost at 1,000. And I laugh. I say that when I say that because Apollo's been doing this amazing work. Less than a year, he's already got almost 1,000 subscribers. The guy is just a Chad. He's a grindcore operative. And he makes these great videos and shows you how to get the outfits for his favorite games. All right. My crossbow roll's ready. Awesome. So, yeah. Apollo, you make outfits for about everything. I think what you'll like is what I'm putting together for 500, a collection of real veteran stories turned into Battlestar Galactica universe stories using the footage from the show. Oh, dude. That will be awesome. Apollo Patriot's channel here. Copy. That link, the first link I put up there is a link for Apollo Patriot's channel. And the second link I put in there is a StreamYard link if you guys want to come in and talk while I'm doing this. Yeah, Apollo does a lot of things focusing on sci-fi and Resident Evil if it's not involving U.S. military. All right. Last thing you want to do is you want to have a holder for your brushes when they're not in use. I recommend this lovely Dick's Division cup. And I'll get the link for that here in the chat. Really Comics Division. Damn it. All right, so I don't think I'm going to get the Dix Division mug link out there. Damn it. Okay. Well, the main thing is that I've got that and the other brushes I have, Legion of Myth. If you like tabletop games, they're kind of red-pilled. One of their hosts is a really good centrist, Max. The other host it reminds me of Alan Combs from Fox News. And he's a very angry, traditional liberal. He does not have a lot of love for the current administration. He probably would steal, if we were standing there in front of Washington, D.C., and we were, I had my guns, he'd probably steal my guns and he'd go bring back heads. He's pissed. He hates what's going on with DC right now. I don't blame him at all. But he is not somebody that's like, yay, capitalism. No. He used to argue for more socialized healthcare and more leftist mentality items. We were really impressed with the depth of knowledge he has, especially with Texas history. He starts talking about OBJ and you just sit down and listen. Get a chance, check out Legion of Myth. If you like tabletop games. Elsewhere in the tabletop universe, Gen Con just happened this last weekend. And with some revelations coming out about the people that are paid by Gen Con to talk about games, I will probably never go to Gen Con. I might go to Dragon Con. Dragon Con is an awesome convention in Atlanta, Georgia. I was there when I was 18. And I have to say that pretty much solidified my love for the South. Going to Atlanta, driving through Chattanooga. I love the South. I think it's a great place to be. I think it's a nice environment. The people were very friendly. Southern hospitality is a thing. Okay. I'm applying an ink to this girl. I'm adding a little bit more detail to the lines. She'll be ready for varnishing before the end of tonight. Got a hellhound here. He's part of a Fire Giant Hunter and Hellhound kit from Reaper Miniatures. Now I'm applying the ink right now. Apollo says, I want to go to Star Wars Con. I used to want to go to the celebration every year. Now, not so much. And it's not really against like Kathleen Kennedy and all that, but I think people like Jeremy and Gary are going to put together a lot more various places for us to meet up. And I'm not saying I want an echo chamber. I really don't. I like argument and dissenting opinion more than I like, echo chambers. Granted, echo chambers are fine when you're getting over a harsh sickness and you just need to feel like you're with your own, but you're not going to grow unless you have a period of development where you can actually discuss with people why you feel a certain way towards things. Now, granted, I don't want to have a bunch of Star Wars writers with blue hair talking to me about diversity and dinosaurs and the Force and that, women know the Force automatically, just like Ray did. Disney Star Wars is not real. It might be real to you, but it's never appeared on my shelf, so I don't care. All All right, now that we have his ink in place, let's get some teeth showing. I'd rather wait for the convention for either Phantom Menace, Friday Night Tights, or something like that. They just had a meet up in Las Vegas. I was in a hospital at that time, and I got to watch a little bit of it. All right, this brush needs some love from the brush shaper, but I can still sculpt it the way I need to. All right. Oh, Paula wants to vet the Blue Twilight. She's hot on the Old Republic. Well, yeah. Of course, anything on camera is going to be hot. They want you to buy the merch. And Brightest Day, you were right about The Expanse. Seasons 1 through 3 make a wonderful self-contained story. I'm in season 5, and I feel like they probably should have stopped at season 3. Because season 4 was kind of long for not a very good return. It felt longer than the episode length that it was. But season 5, they're drawing it out. They're really drawing it out. They're making it feel like you're watching more of a series that would be on 90s television with 20 episodes than the 13 episodes that it actually is. I'm not a fan. I'll just say that. Paula Patriot says, but if I get paid a handful of money, I could buy Twilight Women on shirts. Paulo, just meet one of these nice young ladies at the convention, be a good Greek god to her, and you can take her home to Mount Olympus and do what good men should. Brightest Day says, it's kind of a missed blessing that season 6 will only be 6 episodes. I really agree. After watching season 5, I'm at season 5, episode 7, and Marco and Naros should be a bigger story, but it doesn't feel like a big story. In fact, what diminished Marcos' story is the Naomi bit, where Naomi and him have a kid, and now he's some sort of, solar system wide intergalactic bad guy, and I'm not into it. I wish I could say this is a good direction for the campaign, but man, if this is how the books are, and they're not, from what Gary says they're a lot more woke. I'll never read the novels, I'm sorry. Well, I might read the first one, Leviathan Rising, but it's not a high priority. I'll just say that. Darth Astor, how are you, sir? Also, water dish is something you need. to rinse off your brush at the end of the day. This is kind of obscene. This is a brush cleaner. Okay, I've shown you the brush shaper. This is a giant piece of soap. The hobby store sells this for about $35. If you have a brush that's got some paint on it, it's kind of being serious about not coming off, you wet it, you go scrub the brush in here, then you go run it around the bowl with water and rinse it. Darth, I apologize about last night. I got in another chat room and was listening to some people talk, and then Geeks and Gamers came on. I looked today and you had a quick stream last night, and I'm like, fuck, I missed it. I mean, we still can play tonight. Your Quake streams are good, but I'm also a fan of Quake. I'm going to put some tips on her. And I think she'll be ready for the varnish. Varnishing is the last thing that you really need to do with a figure. That way the paint has a protective layer on it. Now you can use Minwax varnish if you want. It's all really the same thing. It really is. Hoping to be accurate with my brush here. All right, I think I glopped on a little bit too much there. I can always fix that later. Shit. Okay. Well, and that's the joy of miniature painting, is fixing the mistakes and getting them ready to be on the shelf. The Hydra, not my best work, but I'm going to detail that before I get varnish on it. This girl here, when I talk about Reaper paints, Dragon Red is probably my go-to to kind of fix Ifrits. Now, there's a lot of different pigments out there, but this one here is what I'll use to kind of fix things, because what I usually will do whenever I've overglopped on paint, and I say overglopped, but you know what I mean, I've put too much paint on there. What I usually do is I want to make sure that I can get it ready for the shelf and later for game day. And if you guys are big fans of older games, Quake has been re-released. Darth Haster's in the chat, and he's been making Quake videos. And that makes me happy, because Quake is one of those games that I can just pick up and play. If the day's been crap, if the day has been just a poot screw of a day, I can fire up Quake and I can blast away my frustrations. This is a Bones black figure. The new line, the black figures, have a different type of composite of plastic. They absorb the paint better. All you really need to do with these is unpackage them and wash them lightly with a toothbrush, and then they're ready to be painted. You don't have to prime them, unlike the white Bones figures, like this Chinese dragon here that I'm still waiting to find the head. Anyway, Quake, made in 96, just got a re-release, a remaster. And Keck engine is used. It's kind of like a modified version of Quake, I guess. But they have made it crossplay. So if you want to play Quake, but you're like, I don't like mouse and keyboard, get your controller, spend $10 or $15. It might be $15 on Switch, I think. But you're going to spend that money for Quake. For Quake. And they give you 4 DLCs included with it for free. How can you lose? And there's never a shortage of multiplayer opportunities because there's always somebody that's out there that wants to frag you, unlike other games. Now, I prefer Quake over Fortnite. Fortnite just bores the shit out of me. You never have a situation in Quake where you find some dickhead and he runs out of ammo of his favorite gun, so he starts building a wall in front of him. That never happens. In Quake, you typically have waxed somebody on the 3rd shot. In Fortnite, you're pointing a gun directly at somebody 3 foot away, and your goddamn stormtrooper rifle shoots it off at a goddamn angle. I don't like Fortnite. Fortnite is the devil. Yeah, Darth Haster, it is fucking on all platforms. Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. And it's all crossplay. It's all crossplay compatible. There's never going to be a time where there's a 9-year-old kid that needs spanked. You can go do that right now. Like I'm going to say something that might be unpopular. One of our very own streamers within the fellowship, Mad Mardigan from Mad Barber Entertainment, in his movie streams, he talks about women. Like, you know, if he's not really a big fan of them. In fact, he gets upset when there's too many women on screen. I don't know what happened to him at a young age, but whatever. I've got to say that he doesn't really appreciate them. However, his disdain for women, I can understand because I feel that same way about undisciplined children, which he's going to probably say something like, well, that's really what a woman is just an undisciplined child that grew up. Well, I don't like kids because typically they're protected. You can't spank them in the store like you used to. When one's being a little shit, especially if it's yours in the cereal aisle, it grabs the bottom rung, super colorful cereal box. You can't pick it up and whack it. Now, you're really not supposed to beat women in public either, and I'm going to tell Mad Mardigan, don't do that. But it used to be okay to beat kids in a store, especially if it was yours, because it was misbehaving and acting like a little shit. Nowadays, kids get on Skype or whatever game server it is, and they drop the F-bomb all over the place because that's what we did when we were younger. Granted, I didn't have internet until I was 23, but we would hear the kids running their mouth in the old Quake Spy, and then you school them and you tell them, I'll be back to see your mom tonight. Well, with Quake coming back, the shit talking's come back. And I've got to say, it's a wonderful place to be because it feels almost like the 90s. And in the 90s, I had fun. If I could stop time in 99, I would. Because that was like the peak for computer tech at the time. And we had everything that was really good. You had good music on the radio. 3D cards were making games really fun to play and really nice to look at the time because everybody was in ooh and on over Unreal. I was more of an Unreal Tournament fan, but Unreal wasn't bad. I really liked Unreal Tournament. God, I've spent a lot of hours on that. Okay, so go back to 99, and Quake Spy is a thing. You could find people by the thousands playing Quake at any given time. That was still the big game. Quake 2 was out. Quake 3 test was out. Life was better. We didn't have a joke in the White House. We had Bill Clinton, which it was still kind of funny because he was having fat girls under the desk. And if you were a stand-up comic, it was comedy gold. Now you can't make fun of Joe Biden because people think you're a Trumper. Okay, Darth Hatcher says, on all platforms, it took me 3 tries to do the run for the Nightmare stage on Pacifist Run. The first stage on Nightmare difficulty, Pacifist Run, means he doesn't kill a single person. Doesn't even fire the gun. Paula's like, I hate Fortnite. Wow. Yeah, TikTok messed up kids' brains. I didn't get online until 99. Quake 3 was great. And she wasn't that fat. You know, she looks better now than what she did. She looked heavier back in 99 than in 2006 when I met her. And in 2021, she still looks good. In fact, most guys I know wouldn't mind a Lewinsky. When we asked these 10 single men if they would prefer a blowjob over a cold glass of milk, they said they'd go with a blowjob. Film at 11. Can I still say blowjob on YouTube? Is Aunt Susan going to take away my channel? Feels like it. We've got a 8 p.m. drop tonight. There's going to be another medical discussion from a certain creator who I still can't believe his info is out there on YouTube, from Project Veritas. It's going to be interesting. It's going to cause a lot of discussion. And I'm so in favor of it because I've got more friends in the hospital right now. I have 3 friends in the hospital that are vaccinated, that are ill, and it's everything to do with their heart. Their heart damn near stopped 3 days after getting the vax, second shot, Moderna. Like the gene therapy wasn't good for them. Not saying I don't like the vaccine. I like the idea of the vaccine, but I don't like the idea of this particular one. It's not doing the job that I feel it should, which is why that I'm going to hold off as much as I can until people stop going to the hospital after their second shot. And if you saw the first video released Monday night from Project Veritas, you had a couple of nurses on there discussing the same thing. So this is going to be a nice, I guess we're throwing light on it or illumination on it. And in my opinion, that's what needs to happen, because what's going on right now? I mean, I've got 3 friends. 2 of them were Iraqi Desert Storm vets. And I've already had like 4 of them pass on into the next life that are Iraqi war vets. They weren't in good shape. I mean, for some reason, San Antonio's collected a lot of retirees that are ex-military. I wonder if it's all the bases here. Anyway, we've got a lot of vets here. Met some people when I came down here. 4 of them are gone because of the virus. That kind of convinced me, okay, the virus is real. At the first initial part of 2020, I didn't think it was that serious. Not until the third casualty. When Brett died, I thought, okay, something's here not right. And that was literally my thought. Now, all 3 of those guys weren't able to make it. No, the first 3 of those guys weren't making it to the vax. The 4th guy, he refused the vaccine, but then he got sick with pneumonia, which was caused by COVID. Same thing that I had. Damn it. By the way, these are not a bad investment. You just have to secure the piece in there properly. And I probably should put my hand over it. I don't know what type of flesh golem this is. This is a Reaper figure. Yeah, the Navy SEALs aren't taking the jab either. A lot of vets aren't taking the jab, and a lot of them are going with religious exemption. There's going to be a big legal battle over religious exemption. Right now, I'm still employed by a small company with less than 100 people. So I don't have to have the jab. My boss, at last discussion, he wanted me to get it. And I said, I don't think it's a good idea. His wife's a nurse. She believes in it. We'll see how things are next week when I go back to work. Hopefully I go back to work. I got to get cleared on Monday. That's my return to the doctor day. But I've got to say that I'm excited about that. What I'm doing right now is I'm applying a dark tone. This is Army Shade Wash. It's a quick shade. They have this in a few different sizes. One's a giant can. I don't recommend the can because once you break the seal, you have to have an army ready for it. The can is like $29 or $34. It's kind of expensive for a hobby item, but if you've got a whole army that needs a shade, like, and I'm talking 150 figs, it's good. All right. Paula Patriot says, well, Darth Haster agreed with me that Monica Lewinsky looks really good in 2021. She does. She's almost like 60 years old. She's still fine. Apollo says, I want Jessica Rabbit's milk. They're going to ruin that. They're going to ruin a fantastic movie just because some leftist Puritans, I've never said that in my life, leftist Puritans want to ruin Jessica Rabbit. And that is a thing. I mean, back in the 90s and 80s, you used to hear anti-D&D moms from the Sally Jesse Raphael fan club and your local Baptist church talk about how evil and satanic it is if your kid listened to Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and played Dungeons and Dragons. They were typically the religious right. Now, the tables have kind of turned, and the majority of people that are out there trying to censor this shit are a bunch of ugly ass, and I'm going to repeat that, ugly, blue-haired land whales. Thank you, Uncle Ethan, for giving me that nomenclature, because that perfectly describes the women's reading group or women's writers group for Star Wars and the head counsel for Gen Con. Gen Con recently had a thing where they were talking about how Indiana might be progressive, but the rest of Indiana is not. And they were wanting the kids to start helping break down the patriarchy in Indiana. I was thinking to myself, why? What's the end game? Just so you can have a fat, unqualified person in charge of Indiana saying, well, at least the patriarchy's gone. Well, we tried that on a national scale because you guys didn't like mean tweets. And you got rid of a good administrator, a guy that knew how to run a budget, a guy that knew how to inspire people to follow him. And instead, you got a person in office that all he's inspired me to do is go to a college football game and scream, fuck Joe Biden, and clap my hands like a seal. That's all Biden's done. Other than that, he's done nothing but turn his back on America every opportunity. He walks away from every question. He doesn't want to talk about Afghanistan. He doesn't want to talk about things that are important. He wants to go eat ice cream. His handlers don't even let him answer questions now. Sorry. Okay. Fuck more milk, says Darth Haster. Yeah. Apollo Patriot says, I'd rather take cocaine than the jab. Darth Haster agrees. Yeah, what Apollo said. Apollo's like, angel dust. Oh, nose candy, replies Darth Haster. Stripper sugar. That's a good one. Navy SEAL's not taking the jab. And yeah, we have biological warfare. It's no joke. And Apollo's like, I don't listen to doctors. Darth Haster says, I do not. Don't get me started about Jessica Rabbit. Now, Dungeons & Dragons is okay. And Apollo's like, I'd rather date him one day in a bar. Apollo's like, KOTOR is going to be woke. A stupid woman's getting her dirty hands on everything. Yeah. As much as I hate to say it, I'm not valuing anything Star Wars now. I used to be a Star Wars fan. I grew up, I had a Star Wars a Star Wars comforter with the Death Star and Princess Leia, Chewbacca, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Darth Vader on it, and the 2 droids. I had a Millennium Falcon from 1981. It's in my parents' basement now. I am a Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars, but what it's turned into now is a miserable communist reading club where you get a half story, an ugly plot, and zero fun. Star Wars used to be fun. I'm worried they're going to do the same thing with Indiana Jones. Some ugly woman's probably writing a script right now, and she's preparing the worst teachable moment for us male fans is going to be watching Harrison Ford die on screen again. Church is running Dungeons and Dragons now for the youth. When I was growing up, I had a Methodist preacher that he had Dungeons and Dragons on his Intellivision. And a red box, the magenta box for Dungeons and Dragons, was in his dining room. He played it with his family. And the other people in town would go and protest every time this guy would open a store in Decatur. There'd be a little protest for like a weekend, and you'd see these ugly, big-haired Baptist ladies, and they were ugly as shit. They were not nice people. Typically, people that want to censor things aren't really nice people. They should let kids play Dungeons and Dragons with a 12-year-old that doesn't know how to play. And if the kids decide to keep playing, well, they'll get better. But most of the time, kids, after one bad experience, they quit. They quit. And it takes a lot to get people back to the table if you have a bad game. I know I've been a DM for 30 years. Paula says, I'm saving my old school Star Wars stuff. Yeah, you should. At some point, it won't be a conversation topic. Give it 5 years. We'll start talking about Power of the Force figures and all the stuff released in the 90s, 2000s. You'll see the EU books finally going back down in price because Disney has released them as their Legends line, and I just don't believe in getting a hold of those. I'll just get a hold of the original issue for more or less. Used bookstores are your friend. You guys should be going to used bookstores to fill up your library. Go see what exactly the VHS cabinet has. And if you don't know how to work on a VHS player, that's fine. But there are a lot of old books that talk about fixing a VHS player. When I get my home, probably in a couple years, my hobby room, and it will have a hobby room, will have an old tube TV and a VCR, and my plan is to be able to work on them. Not that I don't mind modern TVs, but I really don't want to watch a VCR tape on a new TV. I'd rather have an old TV. That old TV is at the proper resolution, has the right audio set up. Everything's perfect for that era in technology. There's nothing wrong with the new stuff. However, there's a person that looks at their old TV, the one that I want to have in my house. They're like, I got to get rid of that thing. I got to get that new one at Walmart, Sam's. I'm waiting for Thanksgiving. I'm going to buy the new thing for half off, and I'll spend $600 on it, which that's nice. You want a 4K TV for $600? And I'm sure they'll be less than that in the future if they're not already that low price. But I don't need the brand new thing. In fact, if I had my old Betamax collection of tapes, yeah, and I said that, old Betamax collection of tapes, I don't think I'd be watching a lot of new stuff. When I want to watch something, I'd probably put in something older. COD Vanguard is going deep waters. The U.S. government's getting involved with that division. Like the Joker said, let everything burn. Well, Apollo, you don't really have to buy the new games. GOG, who I prefer over Steam, only for the fact that I can find a lot of the older stuff from the 90s and 2000s at GOG, and it seems to work better. I had a copy of Crisis on Steam, and the version I got off GOG is actually easier to run. When I run the version from Steam, I have to go in and get fiddly with it. Rumors going around about Activision's burning documents. Yeah, I've heard that a couple times. I'm not surprised about that either. What I'm really worried about is I want Steam to stay up on a honest and pure path because I like Steam. Even though CD Projekt Red is involved with GOG a lot, I want to see Steam and Valve, or Valve and CD Projekt Red, stay pure because I need them to provide me a place to buy digital games. 5 churches in my area running D&D, he says. Darth Haster, that is a that is a wonderful thing. If you've got local churches getting involved with Dungeons and Dragons, which back in the day they used to think that D&D was devil worship, which when you sit down and play it, it's really just you and some other friend making fart jokes. That's what it was for us for the first couple of years. And we weren't playing Dungeons and Dragons. We were playing Star Wars, the D6 system by West End Games. But we managed to figure out how to play, because when you're a kid, nobody in the 80s and 87, 88, you might buy a book, but like if you bought it at a convention, like I bought mine at a Trek convention, I met Nichelle Nichols in 86, back when she was still able to understand where she was. She's not in good shape now. She's in my Deadpool. And I hate to say that because I love Nichelle Nichols. She's got a special place in my heart. She's a great singer. She's a beautiful lady, actually. Anyway, she's not in good shape now. We're kind of, I think we're about 2 years out from mourning her as a loss. I really do, because she's not in good health. And from what it sounds like, the people handling her well-being they're not functioning according to her best interests. I'm not trying to spread rumor mill, but I'm just saying, we don't have much more time with her. I don't think she's doing cons anymore at all. I think she's just trying to eke it till 4 p.m. every day. But met Nichelle Nichols, bought Star Wars, the D6 system, and then I went home and I also bought Batman: Death in the Family. That was a really good novel. We learned how to play Star Wars over the course of a summer. Took us a lot of stumbling, but we managed to figure it out. We managed to get it right. And we played Star Wars D6 until I was still in the Navy when I was running that. I got out, and a friend of mine asked me if he could have all of it. And so I sold him all my stuff. And by the way, if you love something, don't sell it. I made a mistake by selling my Star Wars D6 system. That original line of books from West End Games had some very original artwork from Lucasfilm Archives. Fantasy Flight Games did a reissue of the main book and the source book, which those two are really all you need to play in the original era for Star Wars D6. The original era being right between Empire and A New Hope, or Empire, right around Empire. Okay, just make it easy for you. Right around Empire puts you at the Dash Rendar's timeline. Dash Rendar was the wonderful pilot that was featured in Shadows of the Empire that did not have a happy ending. Nobody told me that. Shadows of the Empire is one of the better Star Wars EU novels I ever read. There was a huge push for Shadows of the Empire back in 95. I read the novel in like 95, 94, because I was still in Navy, I think. And I had just gotten back from Spain in Texas. And I was just kind of hanging out on the side of the shoreline. My boat was still sailing across the big blue ocean. And when I got back, I read it. And then there was a kiosk outside the music store I went to. I went to this music store, Camelot Music, when I was a kid, and they had a bunch of stacks of CDs and tapes for Shadows of the Empire. I want to say it was like 20 or 21. I bought the soundtrack. They made a soundtrack for a book. And then the 64 came out, and that was one of the first 4 games out, which kind of exposed more kids to that wonderful story. Darth Haster says at least 5 churches in my area play D&D. Well, the new edition of D&D is really simple, and it's not very, I want to say, set in stone. There's a lot of vagaries that they want DMs to make their own ruling for their own tables, which is good because that should teach more people that they don't need to buy 30 or 40 books full of options and rules. You should just make up your own for your own game. That way, your game goes faster. Because when you buy a new book, somebody says, I'm going to use this ability in this book. But whenever you start playing, people argue at the table and like, no, it's in this book, and I got to wait for you to flip open to that page. And most good GMs will just say, you do this happens, let's keep going. Or roll this die. If you succeed with this number or more, we keep going. If not, something bad happens. So that is a thing I learned after many years of being a DM. I was in 2nd edition D&D. I was trying to fight the urge to go to 3rd edition, which when I started playing 3rd edition, I realized how much I loved it. A lot of people don't like 3rd edition, and that's fine. But 3rd edition for me was the cat's meow, because now we had actual high-level play be optional. A lot of times with 2nd edition D&D, we never made it to high level. With other games like Star Wars D6, we played the same characters for about a year. And those characters got really impressive, but there's still too many times with Star Wars D6 system, West End Games D6, you're going to roll poorly. And you don't want to rely on your bonuses to carry you over. In Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Ed, once you got to a certain point, it felt like there was nothing that could stop you. You had to, as a DM, I started having to pull a lot of shit out of my ass just to challenge players. And that's kind of how a lot of games were. And DMs had to either get inventive or they'd be like, well, you've done everything I wanted you to in this campaign. You want to restart a new campaign with your kids? Your characters' kids? And players be like, oh yeah, I want to inherit this and this and this. What are you going to bury your dad in? Your dad needs to be buried in his finest armor. Sorry, you don't get that armor. You got to start off with plate mail, basic plate. I don't want to have basic plate. Well, tough shit. This is a bugbear. I'm not done. Don't worry. Paula Patriot says rumors going around Activision's bringing documents. Yeah, that's really not a thing you're supposed to get caught doing. Paula says, I'm looking forward for World War III to be crossplay, and Hell Let Loose is enlisted in BF 2024 or 2042. It'll be fire. Oh, that's cool. I haven't gotten into COD in a few years. I had a bad taste in my mouth. Now, Darth Aster, lots of room to breathe and incorporate stuff from other better versions of monsters and dungeons, etc. Yeah, 3rd edition came out with an open game license, and the OGL gave regular people a ability to make their own money by writing adventures and source books for a game they could all play. You had no there was not a moment where you would be forced to play in Forgotten Realms. If you had Kingdoms of Calamar from 2nd edition or 3rd edition, you could play that. Another little game company came out, Troll Lord Games, and they are amazing. They make a game called Castles and Crusades, and CNC is the acronym for it. A lot of people I know play that system, and they just absolutely adore it because the CNC system is kind of like 3rd Ed D&D, but with a lot of the crap taken out, and they have a kind of like a one rule called the Siege Engine, and if you have to make a roll, the DC is either going to be like 12 or 18 for you to do it. A lot of people I know love that game. They really think that CNC is a more D&D than real D&D 5th Ed, and that's great. That is great. And they're getting a 3rd or 8th edition player's handbook, which fixes a lot of misprints and fixes a glossary a little bit. Back in the old days, glossary, table of contents. What are you talking about? You got to put yellow tickets in between the pages. Darth Aster says, I miss 3.5 and 5th Ed and Homebrew works rather well. Yeah, 5th Ed and Homebrew works good. I don't like 5th edition as it's written. As it's written, it is a bland game. All right, I'm going to share something with you guys. I've been working. What's my opinion on Critical Role? If you watch it and you just want to hear voice actors play Dungeons and Dragons, and you take nothing from it as far as rules, and you don't mind that the players run all over the Dungeon Master, if you don't mind that, because it happens more often at Critical Role than at actual tables. Granted, some Dungeon Masters have no spine. They just want to play, fine, you kill a kobold, let's keep going. But other DMs are very militaristic. They're the type of guys that tell you, no, you have to make a roll. Here's the equation for you to make the roll. And if you fail the roll, which you probably will, bad stuff happens. Critical Role is good because it exposed a lot of people to the game. I don't like Critical Role's campaign world. I read Matt Mercer's book for it. The campaign book is about as miserable as it could get. It felt like the most bland campaign world. Like if you gave somebody from the Midwest a campaign to write, and they had no experience traveling, and they had no experience with other cultures, that would be the book they'd write. And I'm not saying Matt Mercer doesn't travel or have a wide pool of friends, but I'm going to tell him to get some black friends and to take a cruise or fly out to Hong Kong or go out and do something fun, because the campaign world for Critical Role is the most bland, fucking tasteless potato salad campaign I've ever watched, I've ever seen. And that campaign book is miserable to read. I wouldn't recommend anybody read it. This is a campaign or a book that I'm writing. I'm only up to chapter 4 right now. Bruce Lombardo presents the game Everyone Must Pay edition. The combat engine for it is familiar for people that played 3.0, 3.5, Pathfinder. It's not like those games where it's turn-based and everybody's initiative is set in stone. Initiative will be more fluid. You'll have an ongoing table. Like somebody will have, I'm moving 30 foot over here. Your move speed's 5, so it takes you 5 seconds to move from here to there. And then a wizard says, while he's walking from there to there, I'm going to shoot him with magic missile. And there's enough time in that guy's movement phase for the wizard to get 2 castings of magic missile off. He rolled well, and magic missile only has a 1-second cast. So the wizard is able to cast magic missile twice within 5 seconds and hit somebody. And someone else is charging with a greatsword, and they attack at a slower rate than somebody with a dagger would. So you might get more stabs in with a dagger. Somebody gets that greatsword around and they know how to use it. They're an expert at it. They're going to do more than the listed 2d6 damage for basic users of a greatsword. They're going to be doing like 4d6 damage. So I'm just saying that the campaign is going to be a little bit bigger, or the book is going to be a little bit bigger, because I've got to have tables. But you have a character point cost. Hold on. You get character points to start your game, or to start your character. And every race costs you. Character point cost for dwarves is 10. Elves, character point cost for them is 12. You got to pay with character points to buy your race, and then you pay again to buy your class. I know that sounds kind of weird. If you roll your character in front of your dungeon master, you get more points than if you roll them at home by yourself. Character points for half elves are different for the classes than for other. Character point cost for a barbarian and other races is like 18 to 20. For a half orc, it's 13. A half orc cavalier costs you 20 points. A half orc monk costs you 20. A paladin half orc costs you 25. Okay? The classes I'll be detailing: barbarian, bard, cavalier, cleric. I need to do the cavalier class after this. And I say in here, the game is not a balanced game, nor is it one which people should create characters for willy-nilly. This is Endeavor, which players and referees, counter monkeys, internet lawyers, and many people who have no bearing to the table which you run or play at will have opinions on how you spend your free time. Other people will tell you how to spend your free time. Well, why don't you play 5th edition? Why don't you play 2nd edition? Why don't you play Pathfinder 2nd edition? What's your problem with GURPS? This is your game. It's your table. Your players' endeavors are within your hands and capable mindset to push them towards their adventures and legacies. Other people's opinions don't matter. Okay? Now with your character points, any unspent character points, when you do your priors and particulars, if you don't like the roll you get, you burn a character point to have a reroll. So you want to do this in front of your referee, your dungeon master. You want to have everybody at the table. The book is not friendly to softies. SJWs will hate this book. I'm not going to make people pay for it. Here's a list, by the way, of all the things that you can have as quirks and flaws. Alcoholic, armor snobbery, blind, colorblind, blind in one eye, blood feud, absent-minded, accident prone. So anyway, this is my version of how I'm going to be running the game later on. I detail the classes that I have in my chapter 4. Here we go. And every class has ability requirements, kind of like old first and second ed D&D have. If you want to be a barbarian, you have to have a strength 15, a dexterity 14, constitution 15, and wisdom 17. Still has the same hit die as previous editions, a D12. Talk about all the skills they get. When you enter a rage as a barbarian, you announce to the dungeon master or referee, you get +2 hit points per hit die. Temporary hit points are lost when you take damage or disappear when the range ends. They're not replenished if you enter a rage within an hour of when you last exited. During this time, the referee does not tell the barbarian how much he's hit for and doesn't discuss hit points with him during the rage. The referee is to ask how many hit points the barbarian has at the moment of entering the rage and to keep a tally secret from the player and other players. It's especially preferable to not even roll a die in front of said character. This is how I see the game going. And I have the barbarian rage powers here that are familiar to 3.0. I'm just rewriting 3.0 and Pathfinder to the way that I want to run. This is exactly what most old school DMs do. At a certain point, they quit buying the book and they start doing things more to what they want to play. Hey, Wookie, how you doing? And there's Chris. I play Stian in Bruce's game. He's Draconic Cherub. Hey, T-shirted historian. Anyway, you guys, I talked about the basics that I think you guys need if you're going to start a hobby of painting. Like I said, go to your hobby store. Your art store is going to be a better friend to you than the Dungeons and Dragons or the Games Workshop store is. Not that those are bad places. They're wonderful places. But you can buy these $3 and $4 brushes and get the same results that you do with buying Army Painter brushes. This was $7. This is a Reaper Pro brush. This cost me $16. Look at the bristles on that, okay? Nothing stops the bristles going cattywampus. At a certain point, you're starting to try to groom the bristles to all face forward, not be off to the side, not look like my eyebrows, okay? T-shirted historian, listen, I'm on a lot of Discord channels, and we need to talk sometime. Yeah, I agree. I'd love to talk to you. I like to talk to people about gaming. I'll even talk to people that play games that I don't really like, because there's still something that is from their game I might be able to use at my table, or just habits that I want to make sure I stay away from. Another Army Painter brush. The Wargamer brushes from Army Painter, They have a thicker feel to them. I always put a rubber band around because if not, my hand will cramp up. I know that sounds like old person problems, but I'm just trying to help you guys out. Like I said, the Stay Wet handy pallets. This is a reinforced, this extra papers. You get 30 extra sheets for $10. It's thicker than your usual construction paper. The Stay Wet pallet costs you about $20 at your local hobby store. I recommend this exclusively. There's other pallets that are out there. There's other Stay Wet pallets like this, but they're smaller. This is a good size. You're going to find different varnishes out there. This one was 11 bucks. This was $10.89. A little bit more with this Vallejo. The Vallejo is a good brand. I haven't used this one yet. The last thing I want to have you guys remember is to clean your brushes, okay? This is a good package here. This is about $30, $35 at your art store. All you really do is follow the instructions there, and you're fine. Hobby painting. Pack on. Hold on. Hello, Snortopus. T-shirt historian says, I play 3.0 and a Pathfinder. We need to talk shop. T-shirt says, again, I agree, Bruce. I buy a pack of 10 brushes from Walmart called Full Cart. Full Cart's great. They're synthetic and garbage, but they work well, and I've painted tons of minis with those. Yeah, you don't need to spend 30 or 40 bucks to get a good brush, okay? You spend $3 on a brush or get a package of them for 10 like that. The pack, there's some packs only cost $4. I have a wet palette like that. Need to use it more often, but I'm lazy. Sort of Poopus says, hello, humans and other critters. T-shirt historian says, I use spray varnish. Krylon actually works really well. The canvas cheap. Yeah, Krylon's good. There's a Minwax that's also good. Sort of Poopus is like, hello. T-shirt historian, hello. Now, I used to wrap rubber bands around the grip of my machines when I did tattooing so my hand wouldn't cramp. It's not old guy problems, it's just smart. I've used that soap before. I actually prefer Jen's Unicorn Snot Soap. It's cheap and lasts a long time. Eddie says, I'm here, gonna watch for a bit. Yeah, I apologize, guys. I have to get a shower in, and I gotta go to the doctor's here at 3:30. So I'm gonna shut this down now, and I apologize, but if you guys want, go ahead and rewatch the video or just leave a like. I'm going to be back in front of the camera later tonight and paint again. And I might read, I was wanting to read from my book I did for Shift Elijah's Story. I want to finish that book because it's a project I did when I was younger, in my late 30s, and I didn't have an editor. And I'm not trying to slam the book, but when I read the book now, I realize all the little mistakes I did, and it detracts from the enjoyment of it. But when I read it to you, I don't really focus on those mistakes. If I see something that's a mistake, I'll just insert something and I try to keep going. When you guys read it yourself, you're going to see these things. If you read along with what I'm saying, you're like, wait, it's not typed like that. Listen, I think my audiobook version is better than the written book I have. And the written book I have cost me money to make, but it was a lot of fun, and I made money on it once I sold it. People actually wrote good reviews about it. Not a lot of them, but people wrote great reviews about it, and I was impressed. Anyway, they had fun with the book. That's what matters. When you read a book, you want to have fun. When you play a game, you want to have fun. All right, guys. You all have a great day. I will talk to you later tonight. Thank you.